Now let me slow that down.
You big tech company can't just come in, study from all of our songs so you can create a competing business. Where I would just go for the jugular is Udio is getting exposed today. I couldn't help myself. I had to do a lawyer reacts to this video, which purports that Udio can reproduce copyrighted music. And it's funny because before this came out, I was talking with someone who was like, as soon as I heard about AI generated music, I went and tried to make cover songs because, cover songs do really well. You can create like AI artists, whole side conversation. But anyway, I gotta watch this thing on this whole reproducing copyrighted music. Is it legit? Guys, this is kind of scary. So Sync My Music, another YouTube channel, did a great video, and Jesse's been on my channel, I've been on his, and so I asked him permission to react to his video because I think he did such a great job. So without further ado, let's jump into it.
Udio, it's the latest text-to-music generative AI model that has taken over the entire internet, and it's blowing us away with its ridiculous capabilities to produce finished pieces of music within minutes. But the question I have, and probably you watching this video, is how exactly did Udio's model get so good so fast? How much of the quality of Udio's output is due to the data that it was trained on, meaning the music that it actually fed into its AI model?
So for those of you getting ready to have the conversation in the chat, the conversation revolves around copyright ownership, right? And the fact that with AI stuff in the United States, pursuant to the Copyright Act is very clear, pursuant to 17 USC 102A, anything made by a human and put into a tangible medium has automatic copyright. Okay, so we use, pen to paper, recording into your microphone. As soon as you make the creative thing or a song, for example, you own it under copyright law. Caveat is AI. If it's AI generated, it's made by a machine. So there's no copyright protection in it, okay? So what we're looking at is we go, well, there's all these lawsuits popping up and it's by real humans getting very upset and saying, you used AI to study my real stuff, and then AI is now making new stuff based on my stuff. So you guys can start sounding off as far as just your feelings on that. Is it terrible? Is this actually even happening? We'll continue to talk about it.
Well, it's really hard to say because Udio has not been transparent about what music they've used in their model, how they've sourced it, if they've licensed it. And I've looked up and down through their entire website. I can't find anything that indicates what they're doing behind the scenes.
Doesn't say.
And by now, you've probably heard some Udio songs that have been generated that sound suspiciously very similar to a lot of the artists and bands that we all know and love. And since there's very little transparency here, many of us are left wondering, is it possible that Udio has been training its model off of copyright protected music?
Now, Jesse does a great job to put in, a disclaimer and just be like, this is just my opinion, all right? So obviously we can all just come to our own conclusions. I think he's basically like, yeah, Udio is like using its spiders to go through Spotify, learn from these popular songs, and he's gonna now go on to show us why he has come to this conclusion.
If you try to prompt Udio's model with an actual artist's name, a specific name, it'll give you actually an error, and I'm gonna show you guys what it does. So in this example, I'm gonna type in Eminem, Without Me, hip hop, angry, funny, bouncing bass line. How many of you guys know what I'm going for here? So let's generate 2 tracks and let's see what Udio says when I try to have it spit out an Eminem sound-alike track. So right here, before the tracks are even done, it says artist replaced. We do not generate artist likeness without permission. So they're claiming that they have a little filtration system to say, hey, you asked for a specific likeness, a specific artist, and we don't believe that we should be creating an exact sound-alike of that artist. So they have some sort of filter system that prevents you from doing that.
And then quick beat. So he had said, I have gone through the website and the documents and all the things, and Udio doesn't talk about what it uses to train its AI model. We also went through the terms of service. I did a whole video on the contract that you sign with Udio when you decide to use their service and whether you own the music that you make, can you distribute it? Go watch that video. But the other piece that we want to make mention here is that the reason why Udio is doing this, and they're like, no, you can't search for Eminem. I tried searching for Miss Crystal, so for my music, I'm not popular enough, apparently, for it to recognize. But in any case, the reason why they do this is because of publicity issues. It's not even copyright. It's publicity. If we have any name, image, likeness kind of issues that come up because something sounds too much like Britney Spears, we don't want Britney Spears or her representatives to then go and sue Udio. So we actually have copyright inquiries as well as publicity inquiries.
So after the songs have been generated, it has that same warning right there. Artist has been replaced. We do not generate artist likeness without permission. So they basically just took out the word Eminem and they replaced it with all the other tags that I put in there. So let's take a listen to what it generated. And as you'll hear probably, I haven't heard these yet, it's probably not going to sound like Eminem's voice.
Look at them jumping, they got that bass face. Tripping over lines like it's a shoelace.
Nope, doesn't sound like Eminem.
Guess who's back?
Uh-oh.
Back again.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, laugh tracks to my own jokes, man. Spit it out with a grin.
This is how it literally goes, guys. Because you call me for copyright, infringement issues, and you're like, here's his song, here's Johnny's song, here's my song, right? And it will be things like literal lyrics, literal phrases, and we have to do a side by side. So in a way here, we're kind of like, does this sound like anything we might know?
Okay, doesn't sound like Eminem's voice, but did you notice those first two lyrics? Guess who's back? Back again? Those are two lyrics that belong to the song Without Me by Eminem. So these are these little interesting things that keep popping up through Udio's website that has a lot of us scratching our heads and wondering what's going on here. And that's what we're going to dive into in this video. So a couple of weeks ago, I had a subscriber reach out to me who reported that they figured out a pretty clever way to prompt Udio. Just use their basic prompting tool to generate the music you're going to hear right now. And I'm going to click play on just the first one. You tell me if this sounds familiar.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own.
Okay, so obviously super problematic, but like, what are we talking about? It's a cover. It's a cover song. Just, it's the same lyrics and it's a different instrumental. What's the problem here? Other than the fact that this isn't supposed to be a cover song, this is supposed to be original music. Music Attorney is your #1 legal resource for artists, producers, and record labels. Get contract templates, one-on-one legal advice, free master classes, and everything you need for your music business. Go to topmusicattorney.com.
My wish come true. All I want for Christmas is you.
Sounds really familiar, doesn't it? It's almost like I've heard that exact song note for note, lyric for lyric, chord for chord. Pretty interesting, but that's not where it ended. There were actually more tracks it was able to generate. Check out these ones.
I don't want a lot for Christmas.
At least they put a male vocalist. It's a little different, right?
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents.
Okay, so, taking that and being like, well, so what? It basically made a cover song that we can now go and release. The problem is that under fair use, and I think Jesse goes through this later in the video, but there's 4 elements for fair use, which is a defense to copyright infringement, because we're like, is it okay that AI studies popular songs and then has the ability to replicate exactly, maybe this is a glitch, maybe this is a quick little workaround. It's not supposed to do this. All right, so hopefully Udio makes a quick update. But in any case, just to be like, well, even if it is an AI-created cover song, what's the problem with that? We can make cover songs and distribute them on music platforms, and that's legal. That's okay. But if this doesn't qualify as a cover song, and we go, well, the AI studied from it, it made the new thing, and then under fair use, the exception of the it's okay to use the copyrighted thing is, we use the least amount necessary, it was transformative, it was a new thing thereafter, the market value wasn't really didn't impact anything. Stop right there. The market value. Let's release this song. The thing goes wild. It absolutely could potentially affect the market. So just like an interesting little, if someone else made this up and then they ended up releasing it, what are potential problems? There's a lot, okay? Just a couple things that are coming to mind.
I don't want a
so part of the big inquiry here is as far as going and training, because I'm thinking so far ahead of this, so I need to let me stick with the framework that this video is within, which is, does Udio need to go and get licenses from all the major labels and everyone else in between in order to go and learn from the music? And the big argument that you guys present on that front is you'll just say, well, do humans go and get a license to be inspired by, to learn from? No, they don't. So why would AI have to do that? And the big thing I keep coming to, I think the strongest counter argument to that is just unfair competition, right? So under the law, we have a legal claim of unfair competition that you, big tech company, can't just come in, study from all of, our songs so you can create a competing, let's say, synchronization license business. So you sync your AI made music to TV and film and games, and you take away business from all these other companies, and you went and learned from their music. So for me, I think the stronger, clearer argument is unfair competition. But
to me, that sounds a lot like Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You, which was recorded in 1994. It's not a public domain song. It is a song that is copyright protected. So was this track trained on by Udio? And if it was it licensed? Did they go pay the people who are holding on to the copyright ownership of this song? Just questions, Udio. Here's another song that many of us have grown up on. See if you can detect what this sounds like.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away. This year,
Wham!
save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special.
And this kind of happened over and over again.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart, but the very next day, you gave it away.
The chord progressions, the melodies, the notes, the phrasing, it's all kind of sounding very similar, and all of these sound very similar to Wham's Last Christmas tune, which is, again, not a public domain.
they don't sound similar. It is an exact duplication. It is arguably a cover song. This is problematic, though.
Copyright-free piece of music, it is copyright protected. So what's happening here? How is Udio able to generate these tracks? All right, let's keep playing this fun game. There are actually tons more of tracks that Udio's model was generating that sounded suspiciously a lot like many copyright protected songs that we all love and know. I just wanted to highlight a couple of them on this video. But now let's move on to the Beatles, as in the music copyright owners of the last 100 years. You can't just go take their music. You can't just go license their music for free. If you want to use the Beatles music in anything, especially in the TV film sync licensing world, boy, are you going to pay. Now, remember that warning we got before when we tried to generate the Eminem song? It says, we do not generate artist likeness without permission. With that in mind, let's take a listen to this. Now, because Udio has shown that they will delete songs, we wanted to make sure that didn't happen with these tracks that were generated. So this is now on a private SoundCloud playlist. The subscriber made sure to protect them that way to make sure that they didn't get deleted. So let's take a listen just to a couple of tracks, again, through some very clever prompting that the subscriber figured out.
That's actually a really good rule of thumb, guys. If you have something like, I have an audio of something I recorded, I'm gonna spill too much information. All right, if you have an audio of something you recorded, not case specific, make sure you save it. Your phone could implode. If you have an email, if you have a text message, make sure you back it up somewhere else. If you have the evidence, put it somewhere else, assuming something's gonna happen.
You let me know who this sounds like.
Your name's in the song, in the tune we said. All the fans around you know your fame will never end, but you play it cool, as the legends you are. Oh, come on, come on. Come on to the stage where you always shine. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that to me sounds a lot like John Lennon. Is that using his likeness with Udio's model? Just a question. You be the judge. Let's go.
I like the way he phrases that. He should be an attorney. You be the judge of that. You're the one that says it, not me. Nice job. Here's the thing, though. I don't know. AI is really sophisticated, but I don't know. Is it so sophisticated that it knows the different elements of a song that it is studying? So that perhaps in the artifacts of things that end up finding their way into the AI generated stuff. We saw this with these different apps that would create fun little portraits of you, right? Do you guys remember this? And in the output of these apps, there were artists who were just, so upset because they found their signatures because the pictures that the AI had been trained on, in fact, still had the fragments of the real thing in it. And so understanding that's kind of how this works. And in fact, guys, I can give you a little insight here. So for music distributors, they have, different technology that they use to look at your music when you're uploading it and to identify if it's AI created. But they're also running into problems because of Content ID. Because in Content ID, which it knows to look for the copyrighted stuff owned by other people, it's flagging the AI stuff because it's like you have copyrighted content in your AI created songs. That was a great point. It took a minute to get to that.
We'll do another track.
Simple tune, soft tune, they hum and play, they light your way. Music like a guiding hand. Just feel the song, oh, let it move, let it stand, oh, carry the tune.
And yeah, that does sound a lot like Paul McCartney. In fact, if you were to use either Paul McCartney or John Lennon's voice in a TV commercial or any sort of an ad spot, you would be paying a lot of money because their voices are very, very valuable. In fact, you can maybe argue that they have the most valuable singing voices on planet Earth. Did Udio go out and license and pay to use the likeness of what appears to be John Lennon and Paul McCartney? Again, we don't know. We have no insights as to what's happening behind the scenes. And maybe if they didn't do those things, they're going to be betting that they can get away with a fair use defense for training off of their data, if that's what happened. But we'll get into those specifics in just a minute.
And we are going to get into the specifics of the fair use stuff. But again, the publicity stuff is separate from copyright law. And you do get a license, right? So you come to me and you go, Miss Crystal, I want to get a license from you. I want to get permission from you to use your likeness. I'm going to make a song and I just dig your voice. And I may or may not have an opinion. I think it was Grimes, who was very for a long time, and I don't know if this is still the case, but just being like, anyone can use my likeness, make music, let's do it together. I think let's share profits or something like that. But, people really care about controlling their imagery and their likeness and their voice. In this case, the estate of these very famous musicians, they care a lot.
Now, listen to this. I think this is a really interesting thing that this subscriber found.
Maybe find your truck. Beep, 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 beep. Oh,
Play that one more time. Listen to those.
your truck. Beep, 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 beep. Oh,
Now listen to this.
beep, 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 beep. Yeah.
Now let me slow that down to 0.75. Take a listen.
Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep.
So I have to wonder, did Udio go out and pay to use the likeness of John Lennon and Paul McCartney and the Beatles? And if they didn't, are they just betting that using a fair use defense is going to keep them clear of potential problems legally down the road? We don't know yet. We're still waiting for the courts to help make some rulings and get some clarity for all of us.
True. Become your own record label, which is literally if you're like, hey, I want to start a record label. Cool, I got you. Understand the entire music business. I want to set up my LLC. I want to do the marketing. It's a lot. So for example, sync licensing, for example, music marketing, it's significantly cheaper than anything you would ever get from a law firm as far as all the stuff that comes with it. And you want to make 6 figures from your music career and you want to do this for real. Like, I'm going to give you what you need.
This is leaving me with 3 giant questions that I really want to get the answer to. Number 1, is Udio training its model with copyright protected music?
Well, what else is it training it with? Is the great question that we are asking and asking you to tell us what the answer is.
We're still waiting for an answer from the Udio team on this one. And if they are doing this, is Udio storing musical compositions in its data set? As you just heard, the Christmas songs sounds like there are some form of musical compositions stored in the data. It was able to recreate lyric for lyric, note for note, and chord for chord reproductions.
Yeah, guys, and look, all I can offer is that I just know from personal insight that if this issue with Content ID, where there are really artifacts from AI generated music that is getting flagged by Content ID because it's confused and it thinks that it's the original song, more conclusions are to be had.
Of copyright protected songs. And with the Beatles examples, does that demonstrate that there are actually some physical sound recordings stored somewhere in the data set that can be retrieved? And if none of these things are happening, how is it that Udio's model is able to produce the things that we showed in this video? Because what we've heard from most generative AI companies is that they're not storing any data in their AI models. But if the output sounds like what you heard in this video, is this just a difference without a distinction? Because really what matters is if these models can reproduce copyright protected works. Are they going to get away with this fair use defense? Will that fly with the courts? It remains to be seen, but let's dive into the weeds on that, and I'll give you my opinion and my reasoning as to why I don't believe that's going to fly legally. So the fair use doctrine, which was enacted in 1976 with the US copyright law, basically states that there are some areas of wiggle room for people to be able to use copyrighted music to create transformative works, derivative works, parodies, right? All these different sort of variations on copyright works where we don't need to go get consent or pay the copyright owners to do what we're going to be doing.
Exactly. And in other words, you can legally use someone else's copyrighted stuff without their permission. And so remember, this is a defense. This is a defense to a claim of copyright infringement. And so you go under fair use, there are all kinds of, examples. I do educational stuff on this channel. This is not my video that I'm reacting to. I can react to this video because I am providing educational information, commentary, criticism, perhaps. So anything, educational, commentary, criticism, parody, there are different exceptions where we do fall under fair use. There's actually a 4-part test that courts typically go through, and they weigh the different factors in order to determine whether something may qualify as fair use.
Generative AI companies are going to be making this exact case. They're going to say, hey, this is what human beings have been doing since forever. Listening to copyrighted music, getting trained on copyrighted music, and then creating derivative works that are not stepping directly on the toes of that copyrighted work, but as long as it's its own thing, it's unique, it's coming from a place that is not feeling like it's so close to plagiarizing, fair game, that's fair use. So isn't it the same thing? Well, here's where I think things are a little bit different. In the fair use doctrine, there are 4 elements that a court would weigh to decide whether or not a use of copyrighted music is fair game or copyright infringement. And the 4th element I think is key here. It states that if in the copying of copyrighted music or using copyrighted music to create a for-profit product or service, if all of that activity devalues the work, basically undermines the value of the copyrighted music that your AI model was trained on, then you have a pretty convincing case that it is not fair use and it is potentially copyright infringement. So in our world, TV film sync licensing, let's imagine a scenario where a company like Udio takes their model and trains it off of some massive production music library catalog like Universal's, which is, I think, over 1 million tracks. They don't ask for permission. They bet they're going to get away with a fair use clause. They train their model and they create a very impressive, amazing production music library track generator. And then let's say that hypothetical AI company approaches somebody in the TV film licensing business, a cable company, a reality TV show production company, a network, and they say, come hire us. We're only $30 a month. And you can prompt anything you want. There are no copyrights. There are no royalties, no sync fees. We are going to save you all the time and energy of licensing your music. And we're going to be way cheaper and easier to work with and all these.
This is what I was talking about on the live stream last night. I'm just like, I'm telling you, for me, where I would just go for the jugular is unfair competition. I go, right now, there's so much gray area and people who are trying to file lawsuits. There was this Sarah Silverman lawsuit where she's claiming, copyright infringement. You can't go and train your AI on my stuff. And she lost. And it's because right now the law is clear, but there's a lot of gray. So where I think we get to a faster kind of resolution here is looking at stuff like publicity issues, looking at stuff like unfair competition, right? So we're going to like business claims.
To me, that looks like a very clear case of somebody using copyrighted data to train an AI model to then go undercut the interests and the value of those copyright owners. And this isn't hypothetical stuff. If you haven't followed recently, Red Lobster was the first to break ground by using generative AI music to release a mixtape to promote some new menu items that they want to put on their menu. Now,
just my opinion.
Coincidentally,
do you like that? Just my opinion. I didn't particularly care for the AI generated music, but here's the thing. It's going to be so much better than it is right now, and it's already really good. Give us 6 months, give us a year.
Red Lobster may be filing for bankruptcy, but regardless, this is definitely a case where I can see, we don't know if it's Udio, Suno, some other AI company that might have helped Red Lobster generate these tracks, but this is a clear case where they used this technology to replace human creators. Because what would Red Lobster have to have done if they didn't have a text-to-music generative AI model that might have been trained on unlicensed copyright music? Well, you have to go out and pay a lot of human beings, publishers, songwriters, producers, vocalists, recording studios. It's not cheap to license as much music as they did and put it out in a national campaign.
And you have to clear chain of title, right? It's making sure that they have the rights, because Johnny and Jane work together, and Johnny is like, hey, I'm licensing the music, and Jane's like, what the hell, I didn't give you permission. And then, Red Lobster is like, what the crap? Like, I'm just trying to get music for my commercial. So you understand there's a lot of pain points. The biggest one just being financial, and that's what he's focusing on. He's like, dude, you're going to be able to go. He didn't say dude. You're going to be able to go and get AI music a lot cheaper, a lot faster. And so it's going to be really difficult to compete with that.
Let's just say that the courts side with generative AI companies, and they say, have at it, Haas. It's all fair game, no licensing, no consent. If it's publicly available and you can put your web crawler on it, train off of it, make a for-profit company, and have at it. Well, of course, what are we going to see when that happens? Thousands, tens of thousands of these AI companies popping up, trying to take over every little nook and cranny of the music industry, crowding out Spotify, crowding out production music, crowding out stock music, you name it. If there's music and there's a need for music, these AI companies are going to try to take up everything they possibly can. So what do we do with that?
Well, and even just to reframe it for a second, so, yes, AI companies, but tech companies, right? It's just different business people now saying, oh, there's a great opportunity here to innovate, and to make the user experience so much easier. I mean, you guys have seen some of the video stuff. I'll be covering that, I am sure. That's coming out, AI-generated video to help you with your great low production music video efforts.
Well, if you've been following this technology as closely as I have, you might have noticed that AI generative models are really good at rehashing and transforming yesterday's music. So the music that's in their model, it does a great job of remaking it and changing the lyrics and changing the notes, but it always sounds like music you kind of heard before. There's nothing that feels like it's futuristic or cutting edge or breaking new boundaries. And I think that's where the need for human creators, human producers, musicians, composers, and artists is really going to play out here. I think our job in the near future is to break free maybe some of the chains that we've been holding ourselves back with, maybe trying to sound a little too much like each other. I mean, let's be honest, go look at the trending songs right now on the pop charts. It's a lot of sound-alikes.
He makes a really good point, because, by the time you're trying to sound like Skrillex is not the hot thing anymore. Skrillex is like a decade ago. You know what I'm saying? And in fact, getting your music into TV, film, and games is still very, very lucrative. And, we did a whole segment talking about the best ways to do this, how to make some real money from your real music and real TV shows. This is super concerning. I was really just like, yikes, when I watched this, and I don't know if this was a glitch and it's going to be something that Udio quickly, moves to try to fix. But I thought Jesse did a fantastic job putting this together, and I'm definitely excited to hear what you guys have to say, so drop your comments down below, and I'll see you on the next one.